everyone. Like also, my name is Freshnock. I'm a senior studying chemical engineering here at Kansas University. My project was Kansas Hospital Survey Healthcare Environment. So a little background project. I was in Wichita at the St. Francis Hospital, which is under the Ascension umbrella, and is actually part of like the University Health System here in Kansas. And the St. Francis Hospital is actually one of the largest hospitals in Kansas, a little over 1 million square feet. It's located in downtown Wichita, Kansas. So a little more project overview. So like I said, this is the Kansas Pollution Prevention Institute, and was the SRA-funded grant project. It's actually a 2-year program, so next summer there will also be also working on oxygen reduction team throughout the year on this project. And just some quick goals for this project were to first develop your expertise of toxic chemicals, the toxic work on chemicals, and the toxic work plan is a EPA kind of program that lists 90 chemicals that have been identified for either source reduction techniques or identified as potentially hazardous. The second goal is to secure a toxic reduction team, and I'll speak more on that later in the presentation. The third goal is to research healthcare toxics and source reduction that could be implemented into the hospital. And the fourth goal is to increase awareness of toxic reduction at other hospitals, which would be to share research with other Ascension hospitals. So a lot of chemicals are used in the hospitals. Over 800 were listed on these chemical inventories. So to kind of break down and identify products that contain toxic chemicals, I first went through all the inventories and found safety data sheets for these chemical products. Then from the safety data sheets, I used the CAS numbers that are listed for these products, and these, each product contained sometimes multiple different chemicals. So I had to record each of these CAS numbers into an Excel program. CAS is the contract service number. And then, so using those CAS numbers, I wrote a VBA program to kind of pull from the list of the hospital work plan CAS numbers, compare those to identify which products contain toxic work chemicals. So after running that program, I identified 70 products that were used in the hospital containing toxic work chemicals. And then I kind of, after I identified those 70 products, I went through and kind of ranked them based off the quantity of the product, the quantity of the toxic chemical in that product, and how frequently it's used in the hospital. So after that, I identified 8 products that were kind of of a higher level of concern that I identified. So xylene was one of the toxic chemicals that I found that was used pretty heavily in the hospital, and it's the most like by poundage, most used toxic chemical. And it's used for it's used in histology for tissue processing. And tissue processing is where they take tissue samples from patients in the hospital, and it's used to dehydrate the tissue before it can be embedded with paraffin wax, so that tissue can be by doctors that help diagnose diseases. It's actually a reproductive toxin. And these are tissue processors. So tissue processing is more like an automated process now, where they just take the tissue slides and they put it in this machine where it kind of does all these starts and pulls from different bins to clean the tissues and prepare them so they can be sliced and reviewed. Next, I kind of looked more into maintenance chemicals as well. The hospital uses spray solvents a lot for repairing motors or doing bearing cleanouts on different pumps and motors in the hospital. Many of these spray solvents contain multiple toxic working chemicals, and many of those are listed probable carcinogens. They contain TCE, and some other kind of chlorinated solvents that are definitely a concern and need to be eliminated, especially if these spray solvents were used in enclosed spaces where if they're in the back and where the pump's located, or just in small areas where you'd be spraying solvent, you could potentially inhale large quantities of it in a short amount of time. So also many alternatives exist for sprayed solvents, so it would be an easy product to implement, and I recommend this implementation. The next area was toxic interiors. So interiors in the hospital, such as like carpeting, all the way to like the furnitures, to wallpapers, we're kind of review those difficult, as many of the products used in the hospital are more on the Ascension level where it gets approved versus it's on an individual hospital basis. So identifying which products used in the hospital was difficult, as well as identifying how they were actually approved. So more research will need to be done in this area in the future to try to really develop like a policy to see how we can limit the number of toxic chemical containing products that are used in the hospitals. And some items that are commonly found that would be concerning in interiors would be flame retardants, which can leak from these or leach from the products, and you can inhale them, and that's hazardous. As well as PFAS, which are polyfluorinated substances that are used as waterproofings on many like medical or seating areas where if you want it, there's a small possibility of potentially hazardous, as well as formaldehyde and just in general toxic chemicals also be found. Also looked at cleaners, which are used by the EDS services just throughout the hospital. Previous work has been done with Ascension on the Ascension line to reduce the amount of harmful cleaners they use in their hospitals, and of course the healthcare hospital initiatives, better cleaning policies guidelines. So I did not identify any cleaners that contain toxic chemicals, and also did not identify any cleaners that contain phenols, which are also potentially hazardous. They use some cleaners that contain quantum compounds, but not many. Many of the cleaners they use are actually the final area I looked at were medical devices. So medical devices are often made of plastic, and plastic, for it to be useful as a medical device, needs to be softened with something. So DEHP is a common softener that can be found in medical devices, and DEHP is a task or chemical. So as I said, it's a plasticizer which softens the plastic, so it needs in tubing or in medical bags or in any other kind of like soft plastic medical device. And this can leach from these plastics, and it's a probable human carcinogen, and also inhaled, especially if it's in just for like a child, the amount required for it to be potentially hazardous is a lot smaller. That would potentially large impacts. Also for PVC, which is just a common plastic component, these are also found in plastic medical devices. So eliminating DEHP, PVC from these plastic medical devices will need to be more fully in the future and working with their purchasing partners to identify which products contain these. So some results. So throughout the project, I identified 70 products that contain task working chemicals. And then, so the sum of those I researched 8 different chemicals more thoroughly, and then recommended the removal of approximately 5 of these products. And then, if those 5 were implemented, I would then potential reduction would be over 2,000 pounds per year of task working chemicals from the hospital. So final outcomes, xylene as a potential alternative for xylene isopropanol can be used in most modern tissue processors, and the hospital is actually looking to replace some of their tissue processors. So choosing a tissue processor that can use isopropanol would be helpful, and also spray solvents, like I said earlier, SafeSolve 2020 SFC2 are currently in use. SafeSolve 2020 is actually no longer manufactured by that owner because of the high chlorinated solvent content, and that's under review in many states, so they stopped manufacturing that one. So replacing those with non-chlorinated solvents or safer solvents would be could be. Nickel is a anti-seize compound that contains nickel metal. This could be changed out for any kind of anti-seize compound, such as a ceramic anti-seize that doesn't contain nickel metal. It's used pretty infrequently within the hospital, so it'd be easy to switch. So for policy changes of plastics and furnishings could be implemented at the Ascension level to further limit the amount of toxic chemicals that get into the hospital in the first place. So stopping it there would be easier compared to trying to review every product that's currently in the hospital, so there's over 160 Ascension facilities, or Ascension hospital facilities, 100 Ascension sites of care. So trying to identify each product used in those facilities could be more difficult compared to seeing where you're purchasing new products and making sure those products are reviewed more thoroughly and don't contain these toxins. And the final outcome would be the formation of the toxin reduction team, which will kind of move this project forward. It's a partnership between MedExcel, which is Ascension's facilities management group, and Ascension and the Pollution Prevention Institute, with Nancy heading that team. So that will help carry the project forward and help with the new entry next summer. Any questions?
Jack, can you remind me what that nickel was used for?
It's an anti-seize compound, so it's used on bolts. During so if you're bolting some kind of pump together or something like that, you can put it on the bolt, so you don't strip it or gall the threads when you try to replace something on that.
Okay, and you did find an alternative for that one?
There's lots of alternatives.
Several alternatives.
A lot of them contain other metals, but many of them ceramic based, which aren't that heavy metals like that.
Yeah, and I'll just add that just a little bit of history on Tosca is that obviously Tosca's been around for a long time, but it's just been amped up in the last few years under a new protocol. And so EPA is rapidly identifying, sorting through high risk and low risk. And the work plan that Jack referenced was actually from 2014, updated in 2016. It has 90 chemicals that are under ratings. And so many of them are considered to potentially be high risk. And there's been a lot of news on all of that recently. But so there are a lot more chemicals out there, but Jack was really focused on the ones that we know where EPA suspects are highest risk. Let's see if I can remember what I was just going to say now, where that was going. But it's really interesting. Ascension is very interested in this, and they're wanting to take this project and amplify it across their nation. And just even since Jack put together and facilitated the first toxics reduction team. And then since then, Jack, just so you know, we've actually met a couple of times, and we've gotten to the bottom of the interiors. And what's happening with that is they have, they're following certain standards, and they're purchasing only from this vendor that supplies 80% of the furnishings that they supply are all toxin free, so meet those designations. I don't remember the details on that. But so that's been interesting. So Jack got started on this project when we really just got the grant pretty quickly. It was a little late in coming out. So Jack just jumped in there, did a lot of hard work, inventorying 800 chemicals and putting them all into the spreadsheet, which was a lot of work up front, but his work is now going to make the work at all these other Ascension facilities and our other hospitals, because we're going to be talking to a hospital group next week, and a lot easier. So we really got a big jump start based on what your work was. So I know that was kind of a grind sometimes to do all that.